All right.
Welcome back to Talking Truth to Power, Nevada's Freedom Talk Radio. I'm your host, Brendan Traynor. My co-host is Leland Faegre, and we're very happy to be here today.
Because depending upon where you live, you could be sleeping.
Yes.
So by all means, do what you can to get up out of bed and tune in.
www.americamatters.us, heard all over the world.
All around the world.
Yep. And also streaming live on our Facebook group, Talking Truth to Power.
Which is a good place to visit.
Right. And so, Leland, how many days till the election?
69 until the lawyers get into the act.
Yeah, I know. Hillary says never concede.
It's going to be a duplicate, a replay of 2000, it looks like to me.
Bush v. Gore.
20 years ago, yeah.
I mean, with these paper ballots...
They have more to work with these mail-in ballots than they do with the hanging chads.
Right. I mean, and 20% of the ballots were disqualified in New York State. Mm-hmm. And that's
similar stories everywhere they're used.
Yep. You have to sign the front or whatever. I don't know what all the rules are yet until I get my...
I don't know why they just don't go with absentee balloting. That's the fair way to do it.
Right. Well, the really fair way
But they can't use their lawyers with absentee
ballots. The experts
ballots.
are saying it's perfectly safe to go and vote in person. I mean, you have all of these essential workers that are heroes that are out there, every day being exposed to whatever is left of the virus, because right now the deaths are way down, so we don't know how much is left of it.
Rates are way down. But, are you like me? On Election Day, it's fun to go into your place to vote.
Sure.
And, display, that you voted as you leave and go about your life the rest of the day.
Right.
I mean, it's a fun experience, and it's a very, very civically important experience for you.
Well, here where we're broadcasting from Reno Town Hall, when they have early balloting, we just go and vote after one of the shows.
Done here. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And it is fun to talk to the people that are there. And
even if it means standing in line for a bit. You can talk to the person you're standing next to. And
6 feet away from.
Well, in this environment, yeah.
But still.
Yeah. If anybody cares about that.
Yeah. So we have 2 days of the RNC convention after the DNC, which was generally considered to be a fiasco.
After the open casket funeral the Democrats put on last week? I mean, that was just awful.
The Night of the Living Dead?
Yeah, it really was.
Straight.
Oh, my God, what a display of...
and all these war criminals that they bring forward, all these Republicans, which, Kasich, of course, we ranked it on him, but Colin Powell. I mean, and the Democrats are now rehabilitating George Bush.
Well, I heard Dana Perino from Fox News. She says that he's not going to get involved in it. What did you see?
George Bush?
Yeah.
No, but the Democrats themselves.
Oh, they will invoke him.
No, they're applauding him now.
I see. Oh, okay.
It was a big deal when Helen DeGenerate sat with him in the booth, in a football game. But now they're applauding Bush. He's their new BFF. Oh. I remember how much they hated him, after the Gulf War.
Well, they need everything they can get right now.
Yeah.
It's a game of inches, especially for them.
So the Democratic convention was all about Orange Man bad, Joe Biden okay, settle for Joe, right?
We choose truth over facts.
Never gets old, does it?
No. And, Noam Chomsky called Trump a new Hitler or worse than Hitler.
Did he really?
Yes.
I mean, that guy is really all over the map.
I know he is.
I had an email conversation with him several years ago. Mm-hmm. And I was talking about the Council on Foreign Relations, and he didn't seem to really understand the significance of that organization. And I'm not sure if he's, maybe if he has the mental acuity necessary to understand some of these things. But his bias is such that he just doesn't.
I mean, and he was one of the first to say settle for Joe instead of the other people, because anybody is better than Trump, and that's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's beyond comprehension.
So the RNC is all about showing Donald Trump as a human being, because he's been characterized as the next Hitler.
And they've done a great job of it.
Putin's, buddy or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They have done a good job. Mm-hmm. Yeah. To seeing him talk to people that are, I mean, the radio commentator on the major station in our network, refused to say class, but I mean, he's talking to people of different classes.
Right.
And he's comfortable. Mm-hmm. And
absolutely.
And they seem to they all seem to like it, and
he's a millionaire blue collar guy.
Yeah, I don't think that was phony.
No,
not at all.
By all accounts, people that know him get that part of it.
Right.
It's just that doesn't supply their narrative with anything they can talk about.
Right. And they talk about how everything is done for himself, and then we know he's given up his salary.
Mm-hmm. He's never taken any money.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then Rand Paul said he helped fund his medical missionary work with eye surgery in Korea and Central America and all that. And then we saw him interact with the immigrants, and he pardoned somebody on TV. That's never happened before.
That's great media.
Yeah, exactly.
When he gets a camera, he knows how to use it.
Oh, he knows how to use the media much more than the Democrats do.
Yeah.
They're so stilted. And the thing is that the Democrats, it appears like the ratings, except for Fox News, were less for the RNC for television, but 6 times higher for streaming. The RNC had 6 times more streaming people turning in. And the Democrats are the party of the legacy media, among other things. And Republicans and independents are more likely to go online and try to get a more nuanced approach.
And did you see that independents have come over to him by 9 or 10%?
Oh, I think, yes. And I think that hashtag walk away is much stronger than the Never Trumpers. Mm-hmm. I think the momentum is suddenly there.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
It was just latent. And we talked about this on the show. People, they tend to snooze through most of the campaign season, but when it gets in late August, early September, they start to wake up. And we're seeing them wake up.
Hi, this is Eddie Floyd. Let me tell you about my favorite non-profit public charity, Wainema Wild Horse Sanctuary, located on the Forsyth Ranch in Hallelujah Junction area. And please go to www.wainemaranch.com. That's WYNEMA ranch.com.
This is America Matters Media on AM 1180 KCKQ, a Lotus broadcast station. The power of radio since 1967.
Are you shy and don't want to talk on the air? Text us your questions or comments to 775-237-2266. Now back to the show.
Joe Biden should not concede under any circumstances, because I think this is going to drag out, and eventually I do believe he will win if we don't give an inch, and if we are as focused and relentless as the other side is.
And ruthless.
As their side is, yeah.
They ought to know something.
The signs are looking to, this is possibly going to be a landslide for Trump. I mean, with all these, all the violence in the streets, if anything, and that doesn't show any sign of really giving in.
Well, no, they're using it, they think, to their own advantage.
Right. And so
it's hard to imagine that kind of logic.
Right, and it's hard to imagine that the American people putting up with it. And like we said, there seems to be more people abandoning the Democrats than are Republicans opposing Trump, even though the Senate Intelligence Committee came out with a report that used, didn't point to any real evidence, but strongly suggested that Trump was colluding with the Russians, even though collusion is not a crime.
Right. And left it to individual commentary of members that comprise the committee to take Trump's position. Yeah, that was pathetic.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, the never-Trumpers are there, and Jeff Flake has come out of the woodwork again.
Yeah. Will he just go away? I mean, there's nice places to fish in Arizona, aren't there?
Exactly.
I visited a few of them. There's some nice places there. Maybe I'll give him a call and see if we can get him off the stage, because he's not helping.
No. So, but still,
he's Mormon. Did I mention that?
Yeah, he's Mormon.
Yeah.
Joseph Smith, boy. The Mormons themselves are so nice.
Oh, they are, yeah.
They're like Canadians. They're so polite and so nice. And actually, the way they're anti-government, they want, for the most part, when they developed the land here in the West, they did a much better job than the government did.
I'm sure of that.
Yeah.
How could you do it any worse?
But, that Joseph Smith story about looking in the hat, I mean, the guy was a con man.
Sure.
And,
And I, to the extent that they must know, I think, has a lot to do, this wink, wink, nod, nod kind of a thing. Mitt Romney and Flake and some others. It just, it's hard to justify. But,
right. Yeah. The only more fraudulent is the Stoneman Bible and the dispensationalist, rapture evangelicals. I mean, Stoneman was a con man too, and lo and behold, he wrote the Stoneman Bible. If you don't know about it, it contains all this commentary about the apocalypse and the rapture and how it was going to occur and how Israel is so important, or Israel didn't exist at the time, but how the nation that the Palestine area was going to be the place for the second coming and Armageddon and all this. And, he'd already been in trouble for being a con man. He was a snake oil salesman. And,
apparently a damn good one.
But we have, these are some of the things that we have to deal with in our everyday. And, there was a very overtly Christian aspect to the Republican convention.
Well, you would expect that.
Yeah. And as I've said, of the three Abrahamic religions, I think Christianity is the better one. It has contributed to individualistic Western culture.
Has not stood in the way of.
Right. And, the fact that in the Middle Ages the popes could, they prevented the kings from being openly polygamous. I mean, if we had been
you get points for that?
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
Yeah, the kings had to, until the Reformation, the kings had to watch their P's and Q's. The church was that powerful, although they did make a lot of mistakes, like the Crusades and the Inquisition and the other things, and
bloodthirsty.
Bloodthirsty to a certain extent, even though Jesus in the Bible is not portrayed that way. But anyway, we can't get into theology now. We've got enough on our plate. Well, we could. If you want to continue.
No, I guess we should probably stay the course.
All right.
But the lawyers are going to have fun on the 4th of November.
Yes, they are.
That's what's happening. And Clinton has just signaled that that's where it's going.
Right.
She knows where all the bones are buried, and
so it could go all the way up to the Supreme Court.
That's a
Justice Roberts.
See, that's what concerns me the most.
Yeah, I know. The court is not quite there yet.
But you see, if you have a popular mandate on the 3rd of November,
right, it
makes it more difficult for the Supremes to alter the course after the election. Regardless,
Yeah.
And this gentleman we had who predicted the 2016 victory for Trump on a couple of shows back, we talked about his prediction that he would get likely over 350 electoral votes.
Right.
And he predicated that on the assumption that people were turning out in the GOP primaries where Trump was unopposed. Why would you get off the sofa to vote for Trump if there was nobody else to vote for?
Exactly. That's a good indicator.
It's a huge indicator.
Yeah.
And now we're seeing an extraordinary convention that lifts all Republican votes, so to speak. Right. And I think it's going to have the effect that we definitely think that the Republicans will get a boost out of their convention, while the Democrats did not. But Trump got a boost out of the Democrat convention.
Yeah.
The bump was for Trump.
I know. Boy, he outsmarts them at every turn, and they're so frustrated.
And they've thrown everything at him. I mean, his sister now, has spoken
a
ill.
Former federal judge.
Yeah. Who he claims, well, this is part of the animosity between them, apparently, that he was always taking credit for knocking on Reagan's door for her. And she was afforded that opportunity to sit on a federal bench, and then he continued to take credit for it over and over again in the course of their interactions.
Oh, okay. I didn't.
And she was bitter about that, thinking, well, I should have, I was worthy of that bench without you. So just, knock it off. I mean, you may have knocked on Reagan's door, but I had the background, I had the resume to justify the position. I think, what I've read since that publishing earlier in the week seems to be the most important part of the problem between Trump and his sister. You hate to hear about that stuff.
No, what family doesn't have squabbles,
That's just it. The dysfunction is clearly there, but, the siblings, his siblings, seem to be getting along, and his children get along. So it seems to have just weathered the storm of the news cycle.
How about the attacks on Melania?
Oh,
Bette Midler.
Yeah. Well, she's too pretty for that crowd,
Yeah. I mean, Joe Biden is no slouch. I mean, she's attractive for an older woman, yes. But Melania knocks it out of the park as far as...
Plus, she's articulate.
Because he's partial to Slavs,
Well, I'm taking notes. Yes, he is. But she did address the issues very formidably, and I was impressed by her. But I've always been impressed by her generally.
Yeah,
when I see her.
And but Midler says she still hasn't learned to speak English. No, dummy. She's clearly articulated the words. She just has an accent.
But she speaks other languages.
Yeah, 6, I think.
Yeah, I mean, so why would anybody complain about that? Because they have nothing else to complain about.
Yeah, that could be it. Yep. And, she did say it was COVID-19. She didn't say the China flu. She did? Yeah, which I found interesting. But
yeah, that is interesting.
She showed some empathy for the people, which, as I've said, Donald needs to show, I think, a tad more empathy for the people that have been contracted the disease. But Joe Biden, that's his big thing. I'm a nice guy. I have empathy. When actually he's a corrupt, son of a bee.
He's been nice for 47 years.
Yeah, that portrays himself as a working class hero, but takes money from the big corporations and the bankruptcy bill and the crime bill. I think that they did speak about Hunter Biden, although Pam Bondi didn't. Her address was a little flat, but
did you think so?
Speak. Yeah,
I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, but she did speak about the crime bill, and about crime in the Ukraine, and this is something that I'm glad that the American people heard about it.
Because they're not going to hear about it over on MSNBC.
No, they're not. The MSNBC didn't cover it much, and if they did, their ratings were down. I don't know how they could go any lower.
Yeah,
be negative.
It's hard to know how they could get it any lower. I didn't go over there. I often do that, but I didn't on these occasions. I did not go over to the propaganda media. So
yeah, but they have all ex-Republicans over there too. Nicole Wallace, and she actually bumped not Chris Hayes but Todd. It's Time to Meet the Press. She bumped a lot of his time off the air.
Did she?
NBC, yeah.
She actually served in the administration, didn't she? For a period of time. It's hard to imagine that some of those people that just used Trump and then went off on their own. Despicable practice.
As an 18-year-old, I let my mistakes kind of take over my life. I was 0.5 credits away from completing high school, and I didn't do it.
10 years later.
This is America Matters Media on AM 1180 KCKQ, a Lotus broadcast station. The power of radio since 1967.
Want to expand your advertising dollar? Sponsor this or any America Matters program by calling 775-827-8900, extension 2. Now, back to the show.
Hey, welcome back to Talking Truth to Power. I'm Brendan Trainer, my co-host Leland Faegre, and we've had another possibly unarmed black man who was shot by the police in Kenosha, Wisconsin, which is about 90 miles away from Milwaukee. Mm-hmm. Not sure which side.
Yeah.
Because Milwaukee is about 90 miles away from
but very
Washington.
Close to...
probably less than that. Probably about 40 miles
the
from
Illinois
Milwaukee.
Border.
Yeah. So...
so why don't we know whether he was armed at this point?
I know. Tucker Carlson said he was carrying a knife, but he's the only person I've heard say that.
There was no body cameras on these officers, apparently.
I guess not. We haven't seen
budgeting issue.
We haven't seen anything yet. And then the story was that he was breaking up a fight between two women.
Well, he has a sexual assault on his rap sheet.
Yeah, he does.
Among other things.
And he resisted arrest several years ago. And the reason why is we know a little bit more about it because it was a canine dog that took him down. Mm. Although he didn't attack the police, I think he was walking aggressively towards them. And the canine dog took him down, and that was big news in Wisconsin, Kenosha, about the canine dog. But then...
how big is that town, Kenosha?
I'm not sure.
I'll look it up while we're talking.
Why not? And then... so he had a record, but his 3 children were in the back seat of the car. And what was he doing? That the police had their guns out. They must have been telling him to stop, although we may not have the body camera thing. And then
population just under 100,000 people there.
Okay, so it's about twice as big as Sparks or so. And then he just simply walks away from them, and then he gets into the car. He wasn't running, and then he gets in. They said they tasered him, and he didn't stop. So they want to see what his toxicology screen is. They always blame that on TCP or something. But then he's opened up the car door and to go in. It looked like to go in, and he was shot. Or they fired 7 shots at him. I don't know how many hit him. From point-blank range. His fiancée was standing right outside. She's jumping up and down in anguish. So if they only show that clip, that might be enough to incite what happened, because what happened, of course, was another night of riots.
We've had 3 so far.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Have you seen what was going on before, prior to that?
To where we see the shots go off? No, I have not. It seems to just clip right in from that point, and that's all you see. But you say there's a video that he attacked the police? I mean, that's the claim.
That's what I've heard. He threw a punch at them at any rate. Mm-hmm. I don't know whether he had a knife or...
So that could be PCP or something.
Yeah,
to that extent.
We'll have to see. Yeah. But this, of course, has 2 people killed in Kenosha. shots fired at police vehicles, and of course a lot of looting. And then what we have also seen is armed private citizens defending property, which we're seeing more and more of. And
they are armed.
The well-regulated militia.
Yeah, because where's the National Guard? I mean,
right.
they were to have been called out the first or second night, right? And and I heard that they were to have been called out again last night, so that was the third night. And yet they don't seem to be having an effect. I understand Trump is standing by saying, "Let us know if you need any help."
Right, sure. And that's good, because all of this law and disorders can only benefit the Republicans, in November.
He will let them make their own mistakes.
Right.
And by the way, I'm right here if you need me.
He's standing by laughing. I mean, he's serious about it, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, of course.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let them hang themselves. Just give them the rope.
Give them enough rope.
Right. So, and black mothers, give the kids the talk. That's what they tell about how at any time they can be pulled over by the police. And the ACLU will say the same thing over and over again. Do not resist arrest. Do not resist arrest. It's not going to be any good for you.
Yeah, it won't turn out well.
No. And even if he had prior records and an outstanding warrant, Yeah. And especially with his kids in the car, how responsible was that?
Right, exactly.
So
let them cuff you,
Right.
Take it to the courts and, carry your case into that environment, and don't end up on a hospital table.
Right, exactly. Paralyzed. They say he might be paralyzed for life.
May not ever walk again.
Right.
Nice job, buddy.
Yeah. So, again, it's been 90 days now. The riots are still going on in Portland. I saw the police charge Antifas that had shields. It looked like Roman army shields, from the old days.
That's that Visigothian empire that.
And the police actually charged them for one time, and went right through the shields and arrested them all. Mm-hmm. So we need to see more of that, because this is getting ridiculous. I mean, George Floyd, I still believe, was murdered. I know they're trying to say he had drugs in his system, but it has to go before the jury, of course. But it still seems that the last 2 or 3 minutes where the Clausen had his knee on his neck was what killed him, and that was, probably homicide of some kind. Mm-hmm. And the other police, the bystanders were saying, he can't breathe, let him up, and nobody would let him up. So I think there's going to be some convictions there, although others are saying no, it'll be justified. And if they let him loose, of course, there's going to be even more riots. But
well, the new American Civil War is clearly right in front of your faces. If you're not paying attention, it's going to play out. It has to play out, and we got all of these examples later that can be exploited by those who don't care for the country.
Right.
That's what it is.
A lot of it is neo-Marxism.
That's what it is.
Exactly. And, we have to fight back against that as far as we can when it impacts us, because, we don't want to be a socialist country like the president says. Mm-hmm. I mean, I listen to the progressives.
Zero tolerance for that.
Right. But I don't want socialized medicine. But then I read polls that say 46% of Republicans would favor more socialized medicine.
Where'd you see that?
I see the polls. I don't know exactly which one it was. But
did they oversample Democrats?
They could have. I don't know. But, we don't need that. What we need is to get the government out of these of medicine.
Because that's when it began to deteriorate.
Exactly.
When government began to get involved with it, and the costs were the cost was the effect, and also the quality was affected.
And there's never any trade-offs. Medicare for all will solve anything. Well, in Canada, you look at the Fraser Institute, because of the COVID. They have done a fairly good job of handling the COVID, but they put off tens of thousands of elective surgery. Well, elective in quotes, because any kind of surgery, anything that they deem is expensive or whatever, they call elective. That's why the Canadians, many Canadians come to Cleveland to have their knees replaced, because that's considered an elective surgery.
Well, I like Biden's approach. He says, in order for us to get the economy going again, we have to shut it down.
Oh, yeah. And he would listen to the scientists if they... What
Which
scientists?
ones?
Exactly.
Atlas is doing a good job for the administration.
Yes, I'm glad that they demoted Fauci.
Yeah.
And
I don't know why he was there so long. I guess they couldn't find Atlas because...
Well, he's been in that job for over 40 years.
Yeah, 40 years, yeah.
And even though he's supposed to be under the CDC, most people think he has more power than the CDC has.
There's a lot of discussion about that, Jim.
Right. And what he did with AIDS, and it's not that AIDS...
And his potential benefit that he's profited for some of these vaccines that went out. So.
And because that's his reputation.
Yeah.
He's a bureaucracy guy, and he'll use the bureaucratic rules to approve a medicine that he may have some interest in.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
And that's why all of these these bureaucracies have to be looked at, including the FDA.
And the CDC is a public-private entity.
Right.
It's a very interesting complex of power there. And I think that has a lot to do with why he's been hanging around as long as he has, profiting personally,
right,
as well as now, sort of the showboat of the entire episode we're experiencing.
The Center for Disease Continuance.
Yeah, right. Yeah, all we want is patience. We don't want cures.
So, well, let's hope that the virus continues to dissipate, and that our governor will relax the rules, right? And hopefully we'll get out of this COVID thing.
And Newsom. I mean, it's that left coast
right
affiliation that we're dealing with here, and
Mr. Rolling Blackouts.
Yeah, Mr. Rolling Blackouts. Love those renewables, man.
Yeah.
Those windmills have really come through.
Gee, it's 6 o'clock when the sun goes down and it's still hot. People might want a little more air conditioning.
Let them wait. That's my version of let them eat cake. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. We'll be back in a minute for the final segment.
Hi, I'm Dr. Dennis Patterson. I'm the founder and owner of Nevada Advanced Pain Specialists. At Nevada Advanced Pain Specialists, we take a comprehensive approach to treating patients with chronic pain.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
This is America Matters Media on AM 1180 KCKQ, a Lotus broadcast station. The power of radio since 1967.
Unable to listen to the whole show? A recording of today's program will be available later today. Visit americamatters.us and click on the podcast link. Now, back to the show.
Hey, welcome back to Talking Truth to Power, Nevada's Freedom Talk Radio. I'm your host, Brendan Traynor. I'm here with Leland, Faegre, and we have time to get into a little foreign policy. And the first...
About damn time.
Yeah. And the first one was, we're so glad and thrilled that Trump has appointed Colonel McGregor to be the ambassador to Germany.
Do we have some canned applause back there, Christian? That would be time for it right now. Yeah, that's a great story.
Right.
The caveat is that he won't be well received.
Right. And I understand from anonymous sources, 3 senators have said his nomination is dead on arrival, and he's been denounced by different groups as anti-immigrant. Remember, he suggested we should put federal troops on the border with Mexico during the height of the migrant crisis. He's anti-refugee. He has criticized the Europeans for taking in all these Muslims. After
after we destroyed Syria?
Yeah, after we destroyed Syria, exactly. And an anti-Semite. Well, that has got, anybody that's any different has got to be an anti-Semite.
Yeah, right. Actually, he's a great, he's interviewed quite a bit on Tucker. I haven't seen him lately, but he's very, very good.
Right.
I couldn't be more pleased with this decision.
Right. And he understands Russia. Now, the former ambassador, Grinnell, he kind of had a superior attitude, and he was talking down to Germany about Nord Stream 2 a lot.
Grinnell did?
Yeah. And but McGregor is not like that. I mean, he's going to understand the needs of Germany, and because he's a military man, he's going to be able to help with removing the troops if we can get them out of there.
That angle.
Right. Is very good. And he's going to, although they may have moved the Africa Command to Brussels, I think.
I heard something about that.
Right. But still, he's going to...
But they have phones over there.
Right. So I'm sure that Rand Paul will be on his right behind him, cheering him on.
Yep, absolutely.
So this is Donald Trump stepping forward to promote an outspoken non-interventionist instead of a neocon, and so we're all for that. Right.
Unfortunately, he's the only one doing it.
So
whether he has control over the executive branch, again, that's a big part of what I'm concerned about, and whether the military even supports him.
Right.
That's a big, big issue for me coming into the election.
Right. Well, we'll have to see what the military stands on that. But as long as, if he can stand the fire without withdrawing his name, that'll be an interesting confirmation hearing.
Very.
Yeah. So what's happening in Belarus? Well, it seems to have calmed down. We have video of President Lukashenko arriving in a helicopter with body armor and carrying a carbine, but he only had one or two other bodyguards with him.
I noticed that.
Right.
Very few around him
to
protect him, but then he had his own gun.
Yeah, so... Now, President Macron of France has offered to help him with the demonstrators, and he just simply turned around and offered to help Macron with the yellow vest.
Yeah, right. That's good. Because everybody's got one over there.
So we found out a little bit more about the election. His opponent is in Lithuania. And remember, we talked about the influence that Lithuania has had on Belarus.
Is that exile?
Well, yeah, she got scared when the demonstrations happened, apparently. And Luka is saying that he actually helped her get into Lithuania. Her name is Tikhanovskaya. And what's interesting, she's a 29-year-old housewife with no political experience. And technically, she didn't want to run to hold office, but she wanted to run so that if she actually won the election, she would have another election.
Hand it over to somebody else?
Right. So apparently he padded the results. Now they're saying that he, instead of 80%, he probably got 60%. Instead of 10%, she probably got 25% of the vote. But there's no indication that she would have actually won. I mean, she was a protest candidate more than an actual candidate. So,
but those protesters are peacefully assembling outside.
Yeah.
Lots of them.
And, they are peaceful, but you notice some of them are wrapped in Russian flags.
Lots of Russian flags there.
Yeah. So, and Russia would like to get rid of him because he's been an unreliable partner, but they don't want, as we've said, they don't want somebody that's gung-ho for the EU and aligned with Poland and Lithuania and possibly getting NATO in there. That's the last thing they want. So they've been biding their time, and Putin has been telling Macron and Merkel to stay out of it. And they've issued some sanctions, but they're pretty minor. So it seems to be going okay. At least he seems to be able to hold on, at least for the near future, so that won't destabilize that rapidly. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit, we have a few minutes left, about this Alexei Navalny, and who was on a plane from Siberia to Moscow when he took ill in the bathroom.
Well, he was ill before that.
Well, no, actually, he took ill in the bathroom is what I understand, and he was actually lying in the aisle of the plane.
On the plane?
Yeah, so the plane made an emergency landing in another Siberian city, Omsk, and he was taken.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So there was, on the first leg of the flight.
Right. But he had left Belarus and gone to Siberia.
Right.
And then he was coming back to Moscow. And then, now the thing is, the Western media likes to portray him as a threat to Putin, but he's not.
He's like a libertarian in America.
Yeah, exactly.
2 or 3% of the vote.
Right, exactly. He can't even get his party, the neoliberal parties, and there have been several of them. Some of them are outright George Soros funded, and some of them are more grassroots, but they've never gotten anywhere. You can read the English version of the Moscow Times. That's a neoliberal paper. They're constantly criticizing Putin, but his political base, besides the West, are the upper middle class petty bourgeois in Moscow and St. Petersburg, artists, designers, business people that want to do more business with the West. And he also said that he would give Crimea back and to the Ukraine and all this other stuff. But that's not popular among mainstream Russians. Like I said, the neoliberal parties, the Communist Party, and then there's a more far-right nationalist party, they're the ones that get the most votes in the Russian elections, although they only get about 15% max.
So it should dissuade those who thought that Putin was behind it, because he's no threat.
He's no threat to Putin.
He's no electoral threat.
If he was poisoned, it might actually be the mayor of the city he was in, because what he does now is he blogs about corruption, and there is a lot of corruption, not centered so much around Putin. We have testimony from a lot of people that have dealt with Putin and say he is not corrupt, but from the United Russian Party, which Putin has distanced himself from, although he helped found it, and the local level. There's still a good deal of corruption in Russia. People, I think I saw a survey, it was a year or two ago, where 25% of the Russian people said they had to pay a bribe to get a public service.
Yeah.
Right. So it could have been the mayor of the town that his plane was stopped in, where he drank the tea, that somehow got and put some poison in, if he was poisoned. But even
someone must have had advanced knowledge of his route,
right,
for them to be prepared for that. And unless they have just that poison, just
yeah, I mean, he didn't even
in everybody's refrigerator.
He didn't even get the tea. Somebody in his party went up and got the drinks at the bar. It's hard to imagine how that could have happened.
Was it an airport terminal?
Right, airport terminal. So we'll see. I mean, it's not definite yet that he was poisoned. The German doctors, although they say that the Russian doctors saved his life, they say that they found traces of a neurotoxin, and the Russian doctors said they saw something like that, but they didn't think it was significant or something. So they're going to have to get together and share their their toxicology tests and try and iron it out. But the main point is that when you hear Alexei Navalny, you have to understand he is not a significant opposition to Putin. And in fact, if you ever heard him speak, he's actually would be considered in America racist and xenophobic. He's actually anti-Muslim and anti-immigrant. So the liberals in America would probably not warm to him if they actually knew what he stood for. So
probably so, yeah.
Right. So we'll just have to wait and see, and hopefully that things will stabilize there, and hopefully Colonel McGregor will be confirmed by the Senate, and we will have the first real non-interventionist appointed by Trump in the administration, and in a pretty significant post.
Yeah, it's been slow progress, but progress nonetheless. When you consider his opposition.
Right.
And virtually that's everyone and everything.
Yeah, besides the Senate committee, there were 73 neocons that signed the statement.
Yeah, right.
So
I'm surprised it wasn't more than that.
Right. Exactly. People like Tom Hayden and all those.
And then Flake's colleagues, there was about 30 of those too. So it's from every part of the planet.
Keep on trumping and text joke to 30330.